Hashtag Real Race Talk. Hello, friends. It is the Revved Up Sports Show as we dive in with you guys. Another Monday, another weekend of action-packed racing, another you name it. And we had it this weekend. Down south, Showtime, Bobby Chaffee, Rodney Rodriguez up north, all of you guys. Y'all feel free to check in on the program as we go along tonight. Lots to break down. And we've got two super cool guests coming up in the 7 o'clock hour. Top of the hour at 7 o'clock, we'll be joined by Marianne Nauman as she comes off of night number one there at Cotton Bowl with the Summer Showdown Series. Getting set for night number two. It's back-to-back. Then Kevin Sestair at the bottom of the hour there at 7:30. So we're talking to a bunch of or two really great promoters that will be joining us. Bobby, how you doing, my man?
Well, I'm back in the palatial palace here of the High Five Studios here in the Man Cave. So a little better than hotel internet, I hope, this week. But back in the groove, back back at home base. So that helps out a whole lot with the travel stuff. So I got to actually spend some time this weekend over at Cotton Bowl Speedway with Marianne and H and the great team they had over there at Cotton Bowl. So some really good racing action. One of our good buddies, show friend Jeff Shepard, with Generation Race Cars, beat our buddy Johnny Torres by .007. Right there where the photo finish, right there at the line. So hell of a finish there in the sport mods there at Cotton Bowl.
Yeah, Generation Race Cars, of course, one of the proud sponsors of the program. And again, we thank each and every one of those sponsors of the program. Of course, there are a bunch of them. On-demand shirts, of course. We've got the audio-visual consultations studio, which is up here up north. Rogers Dabbs Chevrolet GM Performance, Computer Age Automotive. The list goes on and on and on. We'll be talking about them, of course, throughout the night as we dive in, recapping the weekend, and then looking at the stuff that we'll be talking about throughout about what's coming up. I mean, because we're really into that point, Bobby, where I think we're now these shows are really going to start ramping things up. I mean, not only is the heat hot, but you've got like Magic Mike Knotts checking in right there. I was following along with Mobile because I wanted to see what our man Jared Maupin was going to do as he hit the road there, heading out to run a modified there. And I mean, Mobile, they were just blown up with cars. And that's a really good problem to have at these racetracks. And again, the car counts are good for the most part. These traveling series and tours that are making their way around here and different points, I think that we're at a very good path to where things are moving forward. Things are moving forward, and that's really what we want.
I think what we've come to find out here recently, is that with the high cost of racing, right? It's always been the same. It's always been pretty damn expensive, correlating with time, right? But it seems like the touring series are starting to become the most popular forms because it's like those guys, most tracks don't race every week now anyway. But when you find out the touring guys, when they come to town, whether you see it up at Berlin, whether you see it over in California, whether you see it with the Cars Tour, whether you see it locally with the STEM stuff, the South Texas IMCA Modified Tour. It just seems as though the touring guys are able to make the most sense in a show because they all show up in one spot and they usually put on a pretty damn good race when they all get together.
Yeah. And that's the thing to where I think that, let me do a little adjusting right here. Sorry. I adjusted my chair and didn't adjust this boom here. So I'm kind of a little off here in my perch, but that's really the thing to where I think what we're figuring out is that you get racetracks that have a really good base of race cars, and the thing about it is I consider like a limited modified, a sport mod. I consider that the top of the barrel when it comes to what you want to call a weekly division, or whatever you want to call it at a racetrack, like your premier. I hate using the word premier because when you say premier, some of the other folks get a little pissed off or whatever, but kind of being that top echelon to me is a limited modified when it comes to stuff like that. And then I think you've got IMCA stock cars, which to me, those two are kind of right there hand in hand, and factory stocks. You've got that, the regular or weekly tracks, when you have an abundance of those, because they're going to come. I mean, they're going to be your bread and butter. But like you said, what we're really figuring out is when you do like a Stims, and of course the American Crate Late Model Series. I mean, we saw Cody Leonard, went off and won a race this past weekend. I think at Hutt County. Bo Begno, they went off and they went to the north part of the American Crate Late Model Series, which I'd love to see that bloom down south. But again, that takes some time to be able to get that done. But the late models come to town. That's always going to be something that folks are going to come out, and you correlate that with the weekly stuff. And the same thing with sprint cars, and obviously you tie all that together, and you've got a really good show. And I think that's what we're really starting to see. That's kind of the blueprint that's going to work at most of these places.
Well, I think that's what it is. I mean, when the high-end cars come to the racetrack, people show up to the racetrack. It doesn't matter whether it's a full-blown big mod or a full-blown IMCA modified, an outlaw modified, a super late model, a pro modified, a big pro trucks. Although those are a little bit more locally, like you had mentioned on the asphalt side. But I mean, when the big boys come to town with them big toys and those high dollar haulers and stuff like that, people tend to follow those. Problem is, as a track promoter, it's pretty damn expensive to get those bigger series in there. It's like a catch-22. You pay all the money to have the series come in the racetrack, but then you got to pay. Then you can. It's a risk reward, right? You pay all that money to get them big series to come in the racetrack, and then you hope that your front gate and you hope that your food and all that ends up selling really good to make up the difference for the extra purse and the extra cost of that series.
Yeah, because it does. I mean, and quite frankly, I mean, I know we talk a lot of times about with the racetracks and having to pay for everything they have to pay for, but I think a lot of these series, if they're going to be run, in an effective manner, is part of that, to where it should cost a little bit of money to get them. We've talked to so many people in the past, talking about what Neil did with TIDA. And I think he set that, benchmark so far back to where two different things. Number one, there was some sort of sanctioning fee right there where he would, go to the promoter and say, okay, this is what it's going to cost. And I mean, I'm sure those numbers are much different now than they would have been back then. But I'm not saying right now that a series director needs to go in there and try to rape. That's the wrong word to use. Go in there, let's say rake the promoter over the grill right there and try to take their money. But if anything, just kind of put a little skin in the game right there, to where the track's gonna have to do their due diligence. I think maybe due diligence money is what that ought to be called. And at the same time, I know in Houston, it's like folks, you want to beat up the group there with what's going on there. Why aren't you running this class, or why aren't you running that class? But when you go back and you look for the resurgence, once after the reset, what you would see a lot of times in modifieds and pro trucks and all that is you had to pre-register. And that was kind of one of those things, to where if you got, 4 or 5 days outside from a race and you had 3 cars registered and you're calling other people and you're maybe going to get 2 more. I mean, it's like, okay, you 3 that paid, here's your money back. We're not going to do this. And that's where it's a balance right there, to where it's always such a crapshoot, where it seems like, to where you put on one of these big shows, are they going to show up? I mean, I think entry fees, I think sanctioning fees, small sanctioning fees, a yearly sanctioning fee, I think is a really good idea when it comes to things like this.
Well, I mean, my experience of being helping with the promoting side of the deal is when you have 15 guys show up, you can count on maybe 8 to 9
Right.
versus the whole 15. So, I mean, I think it kind of works. I mean, every once in a while you'll get 14 out of the 15 to show up, right? But that's not very often. And then, on occasionally you'll get, 15 out of 20 that say they're coming. So it's, the touring series are a little different just because they have a little bit larger group to pull from,
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's just because let's throw the Cars Tour out of it because they have this unique ecosystem that's just kicking tail all over the Mid Atlantic and Southeast over there now, right? So obviously they have the right scenario, but I think it's a perfect storm that they have going. But think about your pro mods or your tour type mods, right? Where they run them at Stafford weekly, and then when the big tour mods come to town, they pull from the local guys. But you got your regular, touring series guys over there. So I think that your touring series has somewhat of a little bit advantage over the local stuff, just because they have a little bit bigger base because your guys are driving further and they're going to come from a little bit further distance and to be able to race at the racetrack. So
Yeah, yeah. And I see the comment there from Colin about 105 and 105 and Cotton Bowl are in situations to where, and he mentioned about the Southern States mods, or Southern States liking to go there and so forth. And again, that's the thing about a track like 105 is, I mean, they run every week. I mean, I can honestly tell you, if I operated, I don't know, pick Texana. If I ran Texana Raceway Park and I had, pure stocks or whatever you want to call it, and I'm trying to draw people in and different things, I'm not the biggest fan of 105 because they have that. And that's the biggest thing to me with 105 is that it's every week. Rarely are they off. It's like when I go and I'm looking for race results and trying to figure out stories and do some legwork on for this show. That's the first place I go because I know there's a race there. I mean, and KRP in Heart of Texas. I mean, boom, right there, because I know that we can lead with that. And you look at that part. I mean, to add to what Colin's saying right there, those three places that I just mentioned, people love going there. I mean, because it's continuous. It's always there. You were just at Cotton Bowl. Marianne's going to join us here in about 16 minutes. And now what Cotton Bowl does, I mean, that's a place they may not race every week. But we talk about it all the time to where their ecosystem, they've got, I mean, they may not pack the stands every damn week. Then again, that's a much larger grandstand than other places. And that's where, with a lot of people, it's like, well, Cotton Bowl wasn't full. Well, you know what? That's a big grandstand. That is a big grandstand. But the other part of that is they've always got a massive car count. And at the same time, you go to the pits, there's a lot of people that may forego going to sit in the stands to go be in the pits. And I think that's where a lot of times when folks want to look at, there's nobody in the stands because of streaming. Well, look at the pit passes. Go in there, figure out the pit passes, see who's actually on the pit crew, who's actually driving and all that, and who just wants to be down there in the mosh pit. And that's something folks don't think about. They don't think about that stuff. But yeah, there's a lot of tracks that have figured this thing out really nicely.
Well, I think we use the word ecosystem because it all has to work together, right? In terms of, you got to have the right mix of cars, you got to have the right mix of diversity to get your fans to come out. You got to have the right, you got to have the right diversity to get the racers to determine which race class they're going to race in, right? So I think all in all, you have to have the ecosystem to make it work where it all works, and it's no different than a city dwelling thing, right? Or you see like the Mars projects or whatever that they try to emulate there on out in the desert. If the ecosystem works and the plants grow and the rain rains and all of that, it works and it grows, and that's what you want to see. So you see that at certain racetracks all around the country, not just here in Texas, but you see it all over. Our buddies at Berlin, Jeff's place up there in Michigan, and Berlin Raceway, that's the Striegel owns. That's a hell of a facility. They have a hell of a streaming audience. I mean, you and I have both been, I hate to say, guilty maybe of watching their racing on a Saturday night when we're off due to weather or whatever crazy circumstance down here. So we watch a lot of the racing from Berlin, and so I think that it becomes the ecosystem is a unique word that we use, but I think it really does work. You got to have that right ecosystem, because even with the streaming, I mean, they were talking about the streaming aspect of it. A lot of times what we have found out, and our buddy Milton Hope does it too, where he does that email your seat or whatever. You see some of the other racetracks do it with the tweet your seat or whatever it is that it's a supplemental audience to it's usually grandma that can't make it to the races because it's too hot. It's dad that can't make it because they live in another state. Some of that. So somewhat the streaming is sometimes, at least in my mind, some kind of a supplemental audience to the audience you already have there at the racetrack.
Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of it is, and I can tell you just firsthand, from Corpus, is one of the other parts of this that we've talked about a lot as well is, for the folks that are there. I mean, especially right now, it's hot and so forth, and you have to cater to your audience, and the thing about it is, I mean, obviously the kids are going to draw the show. I mean, I see it there at Corpus. I've talked to so many different people that they're like, you talk about the Corpus history of racing, and because it always comes up. I mean, when I'm doing that stuff, but it's like we never got to go to the pavement track, or we never came here before. But when the track got very kid centric and started doing things for the kiddos, and the kids enjoyed coming, we come back, and now we're somewhat racing fans. We come all the time. I mean, for one thing, it's a cheap ticket. It's $15 to get in there, and you get in there. The food is decently priced, and there's lots of things to do. And kind of the caveat to that is that the show needs to be efficient. I mean, I know that it drives people crazy every time that it comes up on the show a lot. And I'm glad, because I'm starting to see it in other on other shows, and Lord knows there's plenty of them, to where folks, I think, are finally starting to realize that, man, you got to do these things in a timely manner, even on the streaming part. I mean, look, Friday night, I was home. I had something I had to do. I got done. I came back, and I turned on Waco. And I love Waco. I mean, Waco's one of those places that I love to go. I'm not picking on Waco. I happened to turn it on right at the end of the Outlaw Street Stock race, and boom, they're done. Junior Limited started, and man, they just couldn't get their shit together. And it's like, man, that stuff is taxing. That stuff is taxing for folks that don't want to. They don't want to sit through some of that stuff, if you know what I mean. But I mean, they finally got it going. But again, there's a lot of things, and a lot of it's out of anybody's control. But it just seems like everybody's on the same page to how this thing should go.
Well, I think so, to a certain extent. I mean, I think that you've got to find a way, the attention span. You see it all the way up to the top levels, right? Some of the cup races, you don't see near as many 500-mile races as you used to see. You're starting to see 400 miles. You're starting to see 300-mile race, 300 lap races, stuff like that.
Timed races, my man.
They're getting there. I think that they made that rule implemented a little early because they knew Chicago was going to run long. Mm-hmm. But now you're starting to run at places that don't have lights, and that makes sense to implement it too in the summertime with no lights, even though it gets dark in most of these places at 8 o'clock Eastern, 9 o'clock Eastern time. So it becomes a unique scenario. But you gotta have that time limit. I mean, the attention span now, especially if you're trying to get the younger kids involved, hell, they got the attention span of a gnat. They're used to watching TikTok videos that are 30, 40 seconds long, and that's the long ones, right? So it becomes a challenge to be able to keep that attention span, whether it's the older folks like us, we'll sit there and watch racing for 5 hours, but there ain't a whole hell of a lot of less left.
Yeah. People give me a hard time because it's like, I mean, I'll go to a movie. I mean, I'll watch whatever if it's something that I like, that I'm interested in. Yeah, I'll go to a movie, but just a random 2.5 hour movie about whatever, I'm going to easily get bored. But I'll sit through, whatever. I'll sit here.
2-hour rain delay.
Yeah, I'll sit there and watch interviews over and over and over. So, it's kind of, you have to dig in there, and everybody has their own personal perspective on what they may want. Just like timing right there, because I knew this was going to come up, and we're not going to avoid the subject at all whatsoever. Andrew, the screen you're looking at, Phil's on the right. No, I'm just kidding. That right there, obviously yesterday, or I guess Saturday night, whenever that was, and full disclosure, I mean, Phil Whipple, I mean, that's a guy that came to me several years ago, and wanted to be a part of the program. And when it comes to racing knowledge, when people have a lot of racing knowledge and they want to be a part of what you're doing, it's something that you jump at the opportunity, and you go and you look. And like I was messaging Bobby yesterday. I mean, I we get a lot of people that want to help us, but it's when something comes up. I mean, you go in and you look things up, and you see the resume of what the man has accomplished, and look, take away what happened yesterday, and you still to this day, if you look at the resume of Phil, I mean, it's one of those things to where, I mean, the dude's a very accomplished motorsports rider. He's been on the beat for a long time, and hell, he put us. Look, I mean, he's the guy. When we talked to Dave Moody, that was all Phil Whipple. Phil Whipple made that phone call, and he made that happen. I mean, what happened right there with that? Obviously, we posted yesterday. That's not anything that is condoned by Bobby or I or anybody within the media conglomerate. I mean, look, it's one. I don't give a damn who you vote for or what side of the fence you're on, and quite frankly, and that's part of the problem around here. And here's the tie-in. But let me finish this spill, and then I'll go to you, Bobby. I don't care what you think. And part of that is when you just random Joe, Jane, Schmo, when we're talking, you don't need to tell me because I'm not going to ask you. Keep that to yourself. Tell people that you care about. And that was the whole thing where I was so disappointed yesterday, to where it's like, Phil, that's, if you think that, fine, but don't do that to yourself. Don't, for one thing, don't put yourself on damn FBI radar. But
Yeah.
it's a sad thing. I mean, and people are talking about falling from grace and getting fired and all of that. And I mean, yeah, all of that sucks. But I mean, it's a bad situation. I mean, if you genuinely care about people, that dude fucked up really, really bad. And it's going to follow him the rest of his life. And that's unfortunate.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. But yeah, I mean, if you have opinions, there's a time and a place for opinions, whether that be during a radio show, whether that be during family dinner at Thanksgiving, or just a general social media post. There's a time and a place for everything. And sometimes we've seen, not just Phil have the issue with it, but we've seen other people have issues with it. And, it's kind of like know your audience to a certain extent, right? So you got to be able to do that. But yeah, it's a sad deal. Kind of see Phil's helped us both out in the past. So it's not something, we're not going to shy away from the fact that he's, helped the show and stuff like that. But at the same time, it's a moving pendulum of different things. You got to work with the pendulum that you're on right now. It's on an odd swing for the man. So he's got to, he's definitely got issues he's got to deal with. And we'll, we don't know how it's going to shake out for him. We have an idea how it's going to shake out for him because some of it's already shaken out for him. Yeah. But yeah, it's it's a unique situation out there, and that's why you always gotta. We talk about keyboard warriors all the time, not necessarily calling Phil a keyboard warrior, but it's can be the death blow of a racetrack. We talk about it all the time. When you post something negative out there, all it takes is for one person to see it and they decide not to go, and that one person entering that gate, whether it be front gate or back gate, can be the death blow of a racetrack.
And you're leading exactly into how I was going to correlate this to what we talk about all the time. I mean, look what that's done to that dude. And this is where I'm telling you, I mean, on a much different scale. I mean, I know with racers, we don't often see them. Well, I guess sometimes they do threaten each other's lives. But not quite like that. Do we see that happening? And that's where that can be so detrimental to individuals and to organizations when that happens. And it was one of those things where I was talking to Aaron Brungot yesterday because he was handling kind of the race on side because Chris and Harry were apparently out on a cruise, doing whatever. And I was 6:30 in the morning. I'm getting I'm put up in an amazing hotel at the Holiday Inn Marina right there with Owen in the group from the race ranch, and I'm sleeping so well, and the phone just starts going crazy. crazy. And I'm thinking it's my wife sending me dog pictures or whatever. But then after the thing dinged about 12 times all in a row, I'm like, okay, I might ought to check this and make sure that I haven't lost a loved one, and it's all of that mess. And Bobby, I shit you not. The drive from Round Rock to Corpus, just over 3 hours on the phone almost the whole time. It was
Oh,
like,
wow.
I'm like, I'm going to stop and take a leak that I don't really have to take, just to not have to talk about this for just a little bit, because it was supporters, it was advertisers, it was media people, it was just nonstop saying, yeah, what about this? And part of that is something that I do want to say, and we don't have to go on and on about this, but I do want to say this part when it comes to just to how the whole incident happened. One person that I was talking to yesterday said, "Boy, he fooled you pretty good, didn't he?" And I'm like, "No, he didn't fool me, because our conversations have been about racing. It's been about Oxford, or racing down here, race on, Texas Short Track Hall of Fame. I mean, all of these different things. Never for once did I engage in any kind of conversation, or did Phil ever try to engage me in any conversation about politics, or about Joe Biden or Donald Trump or Robert Kennedy or any of these clowns that are in the middle of this. So it's one of those things where it's unfortunate, and you know I know the dude's taking a beating, as he should, because you don't do that. But like Bobby said, I think this is where you need to go, and before you hit send, whether it be, for all means, don't post anything like that, like he did. But when you're sitting there beating up the racetrack about how shitty the intermission was or something like that, when you go like this, think about what we just went through this weekend. Maybe dial that thing back just a little bit. Dial it back just a little bit.
Just a little bit. You never know. The cold nachos or the too many jalapenos or other horror stories we get from the different voters we talk to. You never know how detrimental that one post can be, because all it starts is about, something not even directly connected. You got too many nachos, and that made the intermission too long for you, and it just snowballs from there.
It does. It does. It's one of those things to where just the slightest thing, and I think a lot of people, and Marianne Nauman's coming up here in just a couple of minutes, and I'm sure we can get her promoter's perspective. But I think a lot of people, when they post things about racetracks, when they want to post something that ends up being negative, I think a lot of people, just with the way the human mind works these days, I think a lot of people are like, watch this. This is funny. And it's not. And it's not funny. There's hurt feelings. There's I mean, it's one of these things where you have to think, when you're going to bash that racetrack, maybe Bobby Chaffee, the promoter, has just been having a horrible time, and has been going through a lot of different things. And you happen to post something that just kind of drives him over the edge, and he says, "I'm done. I am not messing with this shit anymore. Anymore." That's what you need to think about before you hit send or arrow or enter or whatever the hell you hit on these things, because it's just, and that's with this whole conversation about all kind of the gist of what this weekend just was. Man, we got to pull this thing back just a little bit, and that's in the world, that's in this country, but damn it, in racing too, man. You gotta give a little bit, man. Just give just a little bit. A little bit of solace for some of these people.
Well, but it's the human nature, right? You're going to remember your bad service more so than your good service, because you expect it, right? When you come through and you have you have really really bad service with a waiter or a server or something like that, you're more ample to tell somebody about how horrible it was, versus, oh yeah, that was normal. We get that service all the time. And so I think that's just the way the human nature is working here lately. And that's social media does a lot of really cool things, connects a lot of long lost people, or at least so in the beginning, not so much now. Because if you have somebody that you still hadn't befriended, there's a reason
Some
why you hadn't
people
befriended
want
them in
to
10 years. Yeah.
Some people, it's like, oh shit, I was trying to get away. I've been trying to get away from you for 20 years.
Yeah. So, I mean, it connects people, but that's the plus side. But the downside is there's a lot more negativity now in the world. And, we just need to try to be happier people.
Jeez, just calm down a little bit. Calm down. All right, let's go diving in here as we rant as we finish our sermon for Monday morning or our Monday afternoon church happening right here on the Revved Up Sports Show. It is our great friend coming off of night number 1 there at Cotton Bowl Speedway. Bobby was there, and the challenges were, as always, aplenty for our great friend, Miss Marianne Nauman. Marianne, how we doing, friend?
Great. How about you guys?
We're doing good. We're doing good. Just sitting here talking about life in general, it seems like, as you dive in here. So kind of touch on that part. I mean, I know you and I kind of corresponded a little bit before the show. I mean, that's one of those things we were all kind of taken by surprise with the events of yesterday, but it's one of those things where it's like, look, it happened. Let's just move on. Let's just kind of be done with it.
Right. Just life, unfortunately. Sometimes people just get themselves in a pickle. I don't know. Sometimes I'm a little naive and too giving and kind of put things to like, oh, was it really? Did it really? That kind of thing. So that's kind of where I'm at. It's sad.
Yeah, sucks.
Well, I know Rodney and I have both seen you in person having to deal with some of the negative comments and negative stuff that you see on social media. And you don't really see how much it takes a toll on a promoter until you see it in action, and you're one that wears your heart on your sleeve and have for, years, as long as we've known you and then some, right? So
right.
I think that a lot of people just don't take in the aspect, it takes 10 seconds to send a note that says, man, that race in the Cotton Bowl was great versus I had too many jalapenos on my nachos, right? It's just part of the human nature here lately. But I mean, talk
really
about just
is.
the agony of that. Just hit on that real briefly without getting too sad about it.
Yeah, I think I can because I think social media just makes it available now, and it makes people have a lot more guts than normal. But it's sometimes, well, we all know the squeaky wheel sometimes gets the most attention. So that's the sad part for me is when you have to deal with all of the negativity with someone or several people getting on that bandwagon, when what I'd really like to be doing is thanking those drivers that went above and beyond. I'm always bragging about the amazing team that we have, and I can't say it enough, particularly after a near rain out, how they just kick it in high gear and go with it. But the drivers, oh my gosh, and the teams this week just showed me the part that makes me smile when the race is over, and that's where I'll get emotional. But gosh, they just kicked in like nobody's business, had the worst track in the world that H has ever done, and just, took it and went with it and put on some of the badass racing I've ever seen. So I want to be able to take the time and thank those people personally when I'm dealing with some of these, my peppers were too hot on the nachos kind of thing. It's part of the job, but it takes away from the part that really is so very, very important. And that is to thank those teams personally, to thank the guys and gals that keep the village going. And then to be able to thank the racers and the car owners and the teams. And, we're all scraping to make this sport happen. We're scraping to make the ends meet so we have a racetrack out there. And I know those drivers are scraping to fill up the tanks to get out there. So I get it. Both sides of it, I get it. So, I'm like you. It just takes a hot minute to say what Wade Pistol was like a boost in the butt Saturday night. He wasn't even racing. He was a race fan who was so excited when he came down. It just like takes away the negativity when you hear and see somebody that excited. And I didn't make the excitement. Those drivers made that excitement. And anyway, long story. That was a long answer to a short question.
No, that's a great answer because kind of like what we were talking about right there. It's when we talk about loyalty to racetracks and so forth. I mean, folks are very loyal to UNH and the staff there, and it's everything that you're talking about right there. I mean, your appreciation for your staff and your drivers and everyone that comes out, and I think a lot of folks don't realize some people are volunteers that come out and they do this.
Yes.
Yeah, they just want to be a part of it. So talk about the Saturday part. So I was on duty in Corpus, so I'm going the opposite direction of you guys. And as I'm driving, it's extremely gray and dark as I'm getting out of here. The further south I get, everything's brightening up. And the first thing that I'm thinking, I was about to call you and say, are you even going to be able to race? Because I just drove through some nasty shit. Kind of talk about how the whole day worked out for you guys out there, and still got
okay. So H had been out there since Thursday overnight, and then he had been working for the last 2 weeks just to try to get the track to a good point for the drivers. And he and Joel had it on point. It looked so fantastic. So I stay home on Thursday nights. He stays in the RV at the track, and I put everything. So it's raining at the house, and I put everything off to the last minute, like go to InstaPrints, pick up my printing, this and that. So I'm running a later afternoon track run, and I get in my car and my left front tire is low, and I go into town and I drop my cell phone and shatter the screen, and then I go to InstaPrints to pick up my printing, which is already printed, and it's raining. So Ryan comes out, helps me carry my stuff out, and I said, man, I woke up with a low front tire, broke the screen on my cell phone, and it's raining. And he goes, oh, man, this is terrible. And I went, you know what? It could be so much worse. And then I just said, I got to go. I got to get out there. I got to do what I got to do. There hadn't been a drop at the racetrack, number one. And number two, now we stay there and we wake up and it's beautiful. It's actually too sunny and they're watering. And, all of a sudden here comes this rain shower from nowhere. And I tell H, I'm like, we're looking at each other. He's looking pitiful. I'm looking pitiful. Now it's raining pretty heavy. And I'm, walking around in mud. I don't like mud anyway. Walking around in the mud. Everybody's kind of walking around. And then he said, if it rains past 3:00, we can't do this. And I went, I'm good. So we at least had a place where we could be. And my phone was blowing up. I love everybody, but they all think they got to call me when we are so quick to answer your questions on Facebook. That's the quickest way to get your answers, but they think it's quicker if they reach out to me. So sometimes I'll miss those. But so my phone's blowing up, the track phone's blowing up, and then I walk out just before 3 and it's sprinkling. And then I look around and then the sprinkles went away and we said, we're on it. And then the team just kicked in like nobody's business, started unloading, icing down drinks. We like to keep our drivers with cold water and towels and stuff like that. I mean, it was like, I didn't have to say a word to anyone. Everybody was just doing their thing and going above and beyond. So it was an exciting day. And then the drivers came and the camaraderie and the excitement, I guess, because they're going to get to race. And then they get out there and I told H, I said, I don't know how many chiropractic bills we're going to have to pay. He said, I'm worried about dental bills. So it was the roughest track, but some of the best racing I think we've had.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's definitely a character coming out of turn 4 when they were Baja out of turn number 4. But
I never heard the word character before. It's like, is a good track or a bad track is all I ever thought. And then all of a sudden I hear this thing about character. And I'm going to tell you what, I guess H learned what that character is about as well. But it all had to do with the rain. And, we were just so fortunate to get to race. And not only did we get to race, but I mean, all 7 races were just unbelievable.
Yeah, they really were. So Rodney was going to put up the sign, and Jacob chimed in too on the comments about the STEM series racing this weekend as night number 2 of the Summer Showdown series. Talk about how cool it's been to see we call them big mods, but how cool has it been to see that series blossom into something really special? Because it's a big deal when they come to town now.
It is a big deal. And the first time that Jacob reached out to me to ask me what I thought, of course, my TSRS days came rushing back. And I'm like, good Lord, this could work so well. And it has definitely done exactly what I really thought would happen. And I didn't have to do a part of making it happen. I gave the encouraging words and Jacob took the ball and he ran with it and, involved the tracks, the South tracks. And I think it's been great for the camaraderie between the tracks as well. So, kudos to the STEMS group. And I love the modifieds. And I hated seeing how each of our track, which is how TSRS started, back in the day, because we were all losing late models. So why not take all of the few that we each had and put them together and come up with a great field of cars. And that's what the modifieds have done. And it's really saved that class, at least in the south part of Texas.
Yeah. And don't you think, Marianne, because I was the last time Jacob was on, to me, it's really weird the way this has all worked out to where every class they struggled. I mean, Waco had, X amount of cars. You, again, you were the exception. You had, plenty of these, it seemed like, but nobody else did. And even though the STEM schedule has been at times 3 weeks in a row, and
Yes.
in a lot of different places, hell, they're pulling 16 to 20 cars. So
Yes.
mission accomplished right there, don't you think?
Absolutely. And I really got a little iffy when I saw the schedule was as full as it was. I thought, no, that's going to kind of hurt with it. But I have to, kudos for the amount of, when you see that many mods come in, I mean, y'all know us, the track might make some money if we loved huge car counts, but we like that, we like the amount of cars that are coming. So I'm really happy with it. So really proud for the series, and it's it's becoming a crowd pleaser, and people hear where they're at, and they're going and they're following. So I love that part of it. They're doing it right.
That's right.
So in terms of the ecosystem that you guys have there, obviously Ronnie and I have been part of the ecosystems that you developed in the past, and Cottonwood is a really good ecosystem going now. Talk about the development of the classes. It seems like now more than ever, it's like they now are building on each other. Where you see you see people building from a sport compact into a factory stock, into an iStock, into a modified. So talk about how the classes over the years are starting to build into each other and turning into a feeder system really for the next class above it.
They are, and right when I was about to give up on that particular class, it just kind of got a boost, and I don't know from what. Maybe competitive girls that are in it, because not only are they competitive, but they are very good for the track. As far as, I mean, they're a huge part of the promotions of the racetrack, and you might notice that most of the time we have them carry the flags out for our opening ceremony. And the reason for that is we don't have to, it's kind of like with the dwarf cars. We don't have to say anything to them. There's like the first ones that are in line, and they're over there missing hot laps so that they can be in the opening ceremony, which makes that's our busiest, really the busiest time right after drivers meeting, get up, there's just a lot going on at that particular time. You don't have time to chase people down. So it's really great that within themselves have a great camaraderie as a group. They're competitive. They will climb out of those cars, and we all know the adrenaline's going, and they might be in each other's face for a hot minute and tell each other how they don't think they can drive, but they can. And so the drama is there. I think we would make a great mini series.
Yeah.
But it is really getting the younger group in there. And listen, I mean, we got some older people in there, and I love that part of it. It's very diverse. I have to say kudos to Waco on the junior limiteds. They're doing a fantastic job with that, and that's growing the sport. But I love seeing all these kids getting involved, and even the older people that have never even driven. Look at Leslie. I mean, goodness, that's all those kids, and one of them racing, and she is out there. She is having the time of her life. So I love that part of it. So I think it's I'm really happy that it took off and it's going as well as it's going.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I do want to ask you about the Summer Showdown Series. Of course, night number 1 in the books now. And again, I think it's so impressive with all the possible weather obstacles. You still had an amazing car count. I was following along there on my race pass. You got night number 2 coming up with stems. I really like MA the way that it set out this year, because you got a back-to-back, and then obviously the Summer Showdown Series is going to get pretty tight right there. Then you got some weeks off. I like how that finale that's coming up in August, that's going to be some kind of humdinger that's going to be happening right there when that one comes around.
It really is. They're going to be really anxious to race by then. They're going to already know where they're at in that extra point system. So the finale should really be exciting. So yeah, it just kind of played out that way. And then we're back because of a rain out. We're 3 in a row after that. So we got a busy August. We've got a busy July as well, but August is extremely busy, and going to be extremely exciting. It's a time of the year, and I have to give Aaron Brungot the kudos for coming up with the Summer Showdown Series, and and Advanced Auto Parts they love it. And it's not even I don't even have to do a sales pitch with Mike. He just says, I'm in it, I'm on it. So with that, it's just continued to grow each year. And it is what pulls them out when it's like, oh, it's too hot. Ooh, it's this, it's that. I got summer vacation here. Now they're actually planning things around those dates. So it's a good thing for the track. It's next to the Oktoberfest, it's what helps to keep the ends meeting.
Absolutely.
So, Marion, I don't think a lot of people remember your days racing. I mean, that makes us all kind of old when we remember your day racing. You mentioned something earlier about knowing the struggles of having the racers, the mentality of having to do that. Back in the day, we ran every single weekend from Memorial Day to Labor Day. The idea of running an October race was insane when San Antonio first started doing it. How much does that help? I mean, and H is a successful racer too, in his own right there. So how much of that goes into the day-to-day planning of the operations of the racetrack? Is it something that, does every decision you make, do you think about it twice? One, the promoter hat, and then one, the racer hat that you had worn one time?
100%. Same way when they climb out of a car. I really know what it feels like to climb out of the car. To climb out of the car and think somebody hit you in the back end and sent you to the wall. And then when you watch the video, even back in those days, we had videos, but you watch the videos and they weren't even anywhere close to you. So I get that when, with these drivers. And so I have to say 50-50. I go 50-50. I go like what's best for the track. We can't do the track without the cars. Cars can't race without the track. So we're like a partnership. So I have to look at it both ways. And, I feel it when it comes time to make those bills out every month, because I've got to make the ends meet through the racetrack. And I know the drivers have to do the same thing. I remember my parents racing. My mother literally worked so that my father could race because she loved racing that much. So I'm kind of the same way, it's like, I'm to a point where the ends have to meet. And so when they're coming through the gate, I know what has to come through the gate before a penny goes towards paying the bills for the racetrack. And it's, any racetrack person that's promoting or has a racetrack knows exactly what I'm saying. You come, it's a different world from the asphalt world. Asphalt world, you wrote a check, you gave it to them, they come back, you'd cash it for them or whatever. In the dirt world, you pay cash on everything. So you come through that gate, you probably kind of need a security card with you, and and you need to have that same amount of money before you take a penny from it just to pay the bills outside of race night. So it's and I know a lot of racers do the same thing. Like I said, my mom worked so my dad could race, and she did overtime when it got time to do overtime so that he could race. So I've kind of been around that kind. It's not like it's just been there. So, but anyway, that's my perspective on that, I guess.
Well, and Marion, I'm glad that Bobby asked you that, because your style is very much like your dad's. I mean, like Jake was. I mean, because I remember, I'm old enough to remember when your dad started promoting out there at Speedorama, and it was one of those things to where I know Mac had it for a while. It kind of some other people took over, and then I guess it was '81, right around that time when Jake became the promoter there. It was like a brand new world had started out there. I mean, it was driver friendly. It was seamless. I mean, everything really seemed to. How much? I mean, obviously, I know during that time you were right there with Jake and Frankie, but I would have never thought that. Were you really studying him that hard? Because your style is very much like the great Jake Wallace when he became a promoter.
I kind of see myself a lot like him before promoting. I always admired him. He was my first hero. So, I would eat, drink, and sleep racing. Bobby, you just said we used to race every weekend. Well, in my dad's world, we raced on Friday night and Saturday night. So from Austin to San Antonio. So it was like the whole entire weekend we were doing that. But because my dad and I were, I think, a lot alike, he could be a hothead, but my dad would usually lose his cool after he had taken a lot. So when he would lose his cool, it'd be over the simplest thing, but it would be because he carried his feelings on his shoulders too. I promise you, if he were here today and he was promoting with the world of social media, He would never, he would never withstand it, because when my dad got out of promoting, when he finally said, I can't deal with, my dad was an 8 to 5 iron worker. 5 o'clock, he worked on his race car, but at this point he's promoting, but 10 o'clock at night, you didn't get phone calls. And so my dad was getting phone calls around 10 p.m. and they were complaining about silly things, that he felt like they were silly, and he'd been a racer. So it'd be like, I have no family life. I'm not able to do the things that I normally do. And this is his heart. They would say things because they were angry and they would want to vent, but he took it too seriously. And I tend to do that as well. I want to fix everything, and I can't fix everything, but, so I don't think he would ever have survived the social media. And I will tell you, that is the heaviest thing for every promoter. I can literally say, I'm going to go sit down and rest, and I cannot set my phone down because someone's texting me, asking me a question. And listen, I understand they need the answers, but it is a 24/7. And for every promoter, you're reading maybe 5 negative comments and 1 positive. And so it's beating you down. And hell, I just announced today about the tires, and now I gotta go on there and justify why we're going to go with these tires for factory stocks. And everybody's telling me how this is. So it's like I'm not asking, I'm announcing. That's what I want to say. I'm announcing what we're going to do here. I've done my research. I've talked to the other promoters, and this is what we're doing. Yet you got to monitor that. And if you don't, you appear like you don't care. It's not that you don't care. It's like there's only so many hours in the day and only so many things you can get done in that day. So it's like I am not sitting at my phone 24/7. I can't answer your question like we're on a phone call together. It's like, okay, so and then you're going like, you look like you don't care. Well, you do care. You just don't have time for it. So it is a full-time job in itself, the social media part of it.
Indeed.
You probably deal with it too in your business.
Oh, God.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. Yesterday was fun. Anyway, so moving forward, kind of to bookend everything, talk about Saturday night. You're at it again, like you said, the STEM series right there. You said it. I think that this additional kind of summer bonus money, I think, is going to ramp things up. July 20th. Break it all down for us. Looks like a big one coming up.
It does. We're excited. It's exciting. It really is exciting on that third night when you calculate the points and you come up with the ones that are in that extra payout. It's really exciting to hand that money over to the driver. I mean, you've already calculated, it's already sitting there, right? It's sitting in an envelope right now because Advanced Auto Parts is a huge part of that. And the track as well is, we set it to the side, but it's really kind of cool to say, hey, you ended up with an extra $500 tonight, so those top 5 that finish in those classes are going to get a bonus and like a second payout. So that part of it is exciting.
Vacation money. Hell no, it's going right back. Right. You know how that goes.
Hey, listen, you know what I want to say real quick? One of the things H says sometimes is, I'll say, hey, you've had 2 weekends off. And honestly, it makes it more work for him to get the track right. So this time I said, well, babe, you say sometimes it's easier when you have a race the very next weekend. But when this track got done, he was out there tilling it up and he's rebuilding it beginning yesterday morning. And he's out there today still, but it got some serious wear and tear on Saturday. So he would appreciate a weekend off, but I'm not going to say that because the good Lord can give us rain and we don't need a rain out. So
that's right. It can rain the following week.
That's right. That's right.
He was not a happy camper about that racetrack over a couple of Diet Coke and some Southern liquor there. So some Southern comfort didn't comfort him real well when he was talking about the racetrack at the end of the night the other night. So
well, he felt so bad for the racers, the guys and gals, because he just never. And if you could have seen it on Friday, it was just so. I nearly snapped a picture of it. It's really kind of crazy. I nearly snapped a picture of it, and then there it was. It was what it was. So, but I'll tell you. The drivers took it like nobody's business. Then I guess when they say they like character, they like character. I just think it took it a little above and beyond that character of its own.
About another great night out there, and it'll happen again on Saturday. Be sure and make your way out.
Thank you, guys.
Marianne,
thank you so much.
Thank you for the time. We'll talk to you soon.
Yes, and Bobby, thanks for coming out Saturday night. It was a great pleasure to get to see you.
Yeah, like I said, every time we're not racing at my track, I'll try to come see you every chance I get.
Well, you and Ronnie both know the doors are open.
Absolutely. All right, my friend, take care. Get a little bit of rest
Thanks.
and then get back after it.
Have a great day.
All right.
Bye-bye.
You bet. There she goes, Marianne Nauman, kind of talking a little bit. There you hear just everything that they go through. I mean, it's so much that these folks have to deal with to get out there and get that track put together. And just from everything that I've heard, and Bobby, you saw it firsthand. I love the story right there where she talked about how that they set that deadline, and it seems like it's not going to work out, and then boom, it happens to work out. How about that?
And the crowd, surprisingly, because I had some people that were supposed to come with me that they decided not to go because it was raining at their house. And they're like, we're not going to go. It's going to rain out. I'm like, it's not going to rain out. Anyway, I was right. They were wrong. But the crowd itself actually filled out for everything. Was it a sellout? No, no, not in the least bit. But comparatively where the rain was locally and throughout their main core audience there, it was a really good turnout fan count wise. The drivers always show up, but there's a really good turnout fan wise for the for the conditions that were supposed to be there 3 hours before racing was supposed to start. So
nope, that's a good thing. And our promoter talk will continue next. Rocket Raceway Park, our man Kevin Sester is going to check in. We'll continue that business talk and who knows what else. That's coming up. It's hashtag Real Race Talk. We're right here. We're live. We're unbiased, and we are unfiltered. This is the original. It is the Revved Up Sports Show.
Shirts and OnDemandShirts.com. Custom apparel and promo products for every occasion. Birthday parties, reunions, company apparel, school events, fundraisers, and more. Much more than T-shirts. It is On Demand Shirts. Check them out for your hoodies, shirts, koozies, and so many different products. On Demand Shirts and OnDemandShirts.com. A leading innovator in apparel throughout the racing industry and in the state of Texas. On Demand Shirts. More than shirts. On Demand Shirts.
Welcome to the My Race Pass app, the #1 app for motorsports fans. We want to make sure you get the most out of your My Race Pass app experience. With your new free account, you can use the My Race Pass app to see race day information, including event entries and official lineups and results for over 600 organizations across North America. You can also see track information and purchase online event tickets for select tracks. With your free account, you can also search for a track or series on the My Race Pass app and favorite their profile to receive news and race day notifications on your mobile device. To see more information and to see which app subscription is best for you, be sure to visit getmrpapp.com. My Race Pass, the ultimate racing resource.
Absolutely. Download that thing if you want to keep up with everything that's going on at the track, lineups, and all of that cool stuff. When you say that you can't hear the announcers, you can pull that thing up, and it will let you know exactly what is going on. Great promoter talk right there with Marianne Nauman. Cotton Bowl Speedway, night #1, Summer Showdown Series in the books. He'll do it again coming up this Saturday. Also a big weekend coming up, man. And now we go up north. So we've we've gone southeast. Now we go north, talking about big stuff coming up this weekend. It is our man, Rocket Raceway Park in Petty, Texas, our friend Kevin Sester. How we doing, brother?
Yes, how are y'all? We're doing great.
Doing well, man. Doing well. So I don't know if you were listening to some of the stuff Marianne there was talking about, but that damn social media thing, it sure does come up all the time, doesn't it? When we're talking to you guys.
Yeah, she was right on that. That's probably one of our biggest, I don't know, I wouldn't say challenges, but it definitely makes the job tough when, I'm not going to say we're not making money, but when we're doing this as almost a hobby, just like the racers are at this point, for some of us. I joke around all the time and, it's there's a lot of cancer out there on social media when it comes to racers, and we have some cancer in the sport, and unfortunately, it's just part of what we have to deal with, in this day and age. So we do our best to monitor that. I have to really try hard to bite my tongue on certain things, and there's certain things I don't bite my tongue on, and I feel like it gets me in trouble sometimes. But but that's okay. I'm fine with that. I've kind of learned over the last couple of years, just, if I feel like it's detrimental to what we're trying to do at Rocket Raceway Park, if somebody gets on their social media and starts acting a fool, we just block them. So it just makes it easier for us not to have to listen to the BS, and just we try to keep it positive over there. For the most part, our racers and our fans over there on that side of town, I brag on them a lot for the way they handle their social media. They share a lot of our posts. They're positive about what we're doing over there, and I think part of that is those guys in that area had a racetrack several years back. Paris Motor Speedway, as a lot of people know, and that track closed. Those guys were without a racetrack for a long time, and I believe ownership, I guess I'm the third owner of Rocket, which is now Rocket now. It used to be East Texas Motor Speedway. I believe it's 82 Speedway, and now it's Rocket. So I think some of those guys are kind of they've been on that side of the fence where they didn't have a racetrack to go to that was close to the house, so I think they've kind of learned, from, I don't know, just, I'm not going to say other people's mistakes, but they kind of appreciate what they have there, I think, and I hope, so they kind of, they don't want to see it go away.
No doubt.
So, Kevin, Rocket wasn't your first experience there, being the promoter and the owner and stuff like that. But now that you've been at Rocket for a couple of years, what's been the double-sided question? What's been the biggest challenge so far, other than maybe social media? And what's been the biggest reward for you over the course of the last couple of years there at Rocket?
The biggest challenge is, and it's still a little bit of a challenge, we're still working on it, is getting the crowd there. I think every track struggles with that. I think when you take over a track that has had a couple of previous owners prior to you and didn't, I'm not going to say didn't have success, but struggled a little bit, with keeping a consistent schedule, consistent races, that so forth. I think that's been our biggest challenge. We've done a lot this season on focusing on trying to get the crowd interaction going a little bit better, handing out a lot of free tickets. I don't know how many free tickets we've handed out this year. Our racers have been, super, super helpful with that. If we ask them to set out cars at local businesses and hand out tickets in the heat of the day, they've done it. We actually, one of our better, I guess, interactions would have been the Walmart there in Paris. We were lucky enough to set up a couple cars outside the main door there as you come in the Paris Walmart, and we got to visit with a lot of people that didn't even know that the racetrack existed. So handed out a lot of free tickets there, got a lot of kids involved, let them see the cars and stuff like that, and so we're doing a lot of that this year. So and we're seeing the numbers improve. Chris David and Race On have been helpful with us on YouTube ads. We've been focused a little bit more on YouTube in that area. So hopefully, I think that's working more than just about anything. We're seeing a lot of new faces that I can see families walk in from the press box that I can tell have never been to the racetrack before. So that makes it very important for us to, make sure they get a good show, a good quality show, efficient show. We're not keeping them there till, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. People's attention spans are, about 3 hours. If we start at 7 o'clock and 10 o'clock rolls around, 10:30, I can see families start to pick up their stuff and start making their way towards the gate, regardless of how many more races are left, so we've been conscious of that and trying to, put on a good program for the fans. So the racers, they've done their part and they continue to do their part, show up, do their, put on a good show for the fans. And so it's our job now to make sure that we have fans there for these guys to race in front of.
Yeah. And Kevin, that really is the hard part, because I've been in those situations so many times, calling races to where it's like at whatever point we start hovering around that 10 o'clock mark and we're behind and we've got 3 races left. And I find myself saying, oh, don't leave. We still got limited modifieds. We still have this and that. And I think a lot of people are like, oh shit, still, and I think that kind of drives them away a little bit. Talk about from the fan perspective, and obviously, we've talked about streaming. Streaming is great, but still, you want people in the seats. I mean, empty seats cost money. And the thing about it is now you have to be. I mean, you do a great job of it. KR does a great job. Oh, and Marianne, you guys do such a great job to where the racing is there, but you have to incorporate other things. I mean, there have to be other things. It's got to be a full entertainment package that happens at a racetrack.
Yeah, and that's something that when me and KR first got into this deal over at RPM, we were big on trying to get big car counts, and we kind of lost perspective of, we got to have fans in the grandstands to pay for these big car counts, because every car that pulls through the gate, they're leaving with some of their money, so we got to make sure that, we're making our money on the grandstand side and not our racers. And unfortunately, for most tracks, it's a back gate driven business, unfortunately. And I don't like it, from the promoter standpoint. I didn't like it as a racer, but that's just what it is, at this point. And, I tell racers all the time, just in conversation, that, give me 80 to 100 cars in the pits and give me about 600 to 700 people in the grandstands, and that's a good night for everybody. If you give me 1,000 people in the grandstands every night, you'd see some pretty nice purses. We pay. I think we've got a pretty decent purse for a weekly purse, as is. But you give me 1,000 people in the grandstands like the old days. We'd be putting out some really good weekly purses. It'd be 1,000 winning every class, but unfortunately that's just not the case. Just to kind of give you a perspective on things, I think we had 70 people in the grandstands this past Saturday night, and I think 60 of those were free tickets. So it doesn't take long to do the math on that and kind of see where you stand financially, at the end of the night. Me and KR had conversations about this, and you want to let these racers know that, there's only a handful of race tracks in Texas that are actually operating as a racetrack. Most of your tracks in Texas, Louisiana, and even Oklahoma, there's another business behind that's carrying the load for that racetrack to keep the gates open. And I don't think people understand that sometimes. And when you see some of the social media bashing and stuff like that, that makes it hard. Fortunately for us, we've been fortunate enough with our plumbing business to help us out with the racetrack, and it takes it takes a load off us when we need it. It's just a tough business. So, but we're going to keep on trucking. We love it. We love our racers there, our fans there. I mean, we're building something special there. It's just like any business. My plumbing business it didn't take off right away. It took a couple 3 years, and that's kind of where we're at with Rocket. And I feel like we're heading in the right direction. So we're still excited about what we got going on here, and we don't plan on going anywhere.
Love it.
So Kevin, we talked to Marianne about it. It seems like a lot of the good racers or the good promoters are ones that were former racers or retired racers. Pick your poison on how you want to describe your racing career up until you became a promoter. But I think that you kind of hit on something where you talked about, you're honest with the racers, because I think that honesty between a promoter and a racer comes in very handy, because of the fact that, you don't want to do the poor me speech to the drivers meeting every time. But I think that the drivers need to know that, yes, they are an integral part of the show, but you need to get fans in the stands to watch those guys go around in the circles to do the amazing racing that they do. Talk about taking that experience from being the racer side of it to help you with the promoting side of it.
I think, being a racer for 25 years, I think it's helped me a lot on just the way I handle certain calls or certain situations. Sometimes I get amped up just like I did when I was a racer, so sometimes that can kind of, bite you in the butt sometimes. So I get a little animated over the receiver sometimes, which that's just me. I want to see I want to see a good solid show. And when things aren't just going like they should, then I kind of tend to get a little amped up on the race here with the guys. But for the most part, they understand where I'm coming from. I think that's I feel like I've got a really good relationship with most of the racers. Not only in our area but across the state and different regions or whatnot from racing all over the place. Now there's some that just probably don't see eye to eye with some of the way we do things, and that's fine. It's that's what makes it what it is. So I'm fine with that. And but I think for the most part, I think guys know I'm pretty straightforward and kind of I'm a straight shooter. So like I said, sometimes that gets me in trouble. Sometimes that's I think people respect that a little bit more than just beating around the bush and telling them what they want to hear. I'm not that guy. I'm gonna tell you, I'll be straightforward with you up on the front side of it. And I'd rather you be mad at me on the front end than me tell you what you want to hear and be mad at me on the back end. So that's just the way we do business like that at the plumbing shop, and that's the way we do business there at Rocket. So.
Well, and Kevin, I think it's one of those things for like on a football team or baseball team, a baseball manager, whatever. I mean, if somebody's in command and somebody that's done it, I think that folks are going to have a little more respect, whatever the word comes down. I mean, yeah, you're going to have some pushback to it, but just the fact that you've done it, I think that goes a long way.
Yeah, I mean, I tell guys all the time, we use judgment calls when a caution comes out. If we feel like somebody got into the back of somebody by accident, then if they say they spun them out, then the person that got spun out is going to get their spot back, and the person that might have accidentally gotten into the back of them, he just goes to the back. We don't send them off. We don't black flag them. I mean, we want them there to make laps and enjoy their time there. It's just there's certain things that happen on a racetrack that sometimes you just can't control it. So now if it's something intentional or they do something, with malice, then yeah, we'll send them off and we'll give guys their spots back. And I tell guys all the time, we're not going to get them all right. We're going to get about 95% of them right, I feel like, and there's going to be about 5% that we're not going to get right. And I tell them, if you feel like you got the bad end of a call, just wait. You'll probably end up getting the right end of a call that maybe you didn't deserve, and that actually happened. The first 2 years that we took over and we started doing that, we had a racer that got in the back of somebody. We made a call. He didn't agree with it. The following year, he got in the back of somebody. We missed it, and he come to me after the races. We're like, hey, I see what you're saying now. Y'all missed that call. I actually got in the back of that guy. So, and I think from being a racer for 25 years, I think, I can tell these guys, hey, I've been in just about every situation that you can imagine. I've seen every situation that you can imagine. I've been there and done that. So on that side of it, I think that helps us or helps me, running the show from the tower. So, like I said, we're not going to always get it right. We're humans and we are going to miss some stuff. And but I think we do our best to, make the right calls for these guys. It costs a lot of money to race these cars, and so we try to make sure that they get a fair shake at the end of the night.
That's right.
So Kevin, speaking of a lot of money and a lot of cars, you guys getting geared up for a pretty big World of Outlaw race coming up there at Rocket. Talk about the preparation for that. That's got to be, it's a catch-22. It's probably going to fill the grandstands, but the expense and the headache and all the preparation to get those big national tours to the racetracks got to be stressful. Talk about a little bit behind the scenes about getting World Outlaws to the racetrack.
Well, that one there is kind of funny. It's, when we was at RPM and even when we took over at Rocket, we reached out to, just about every national series, and it just like we wouldn't get anywhere. And I told KR, I said, you know what? I'm done calling these people. If they want to race here, I think we've proven that we can put on a quality show. I think we've got a fantastic facility. The track race is good. If they want to race here, they're going to have to call us. I'm not calling them anymore. So that's kind of how it started this year. And I'll be damned if Steve Francis didn't call me. It wasn't too long after that conversation. Steve Francis from the World Outlaws late model called and asked about putting on a race there. And I was like, yeah, we'll definitely entertain that. So as far as being a burden, I mean, it's it's going to be it'll be about 100,000, to put that show on. So it'll take everybody in it'll take a full grandstands and a full pit area to make the numbers work. I tell guys all the time, it's almost gotten to the point where these are weekly races. If we concentrate more on those, the risk versus rewards a lot better. These bigger national and regional tours they've gotten pretty tough to make sense of. And but I think that one, being that they hadn't been here in several years, and I think there's a lot of excitement around that event. I think we're going to be okay. And my wife thought I was a little bit. She almost killed me when I told her we was going to put that show on, but yeah, it'll be a good one. I'm looking forward to that one. I think everybody's looking forward to that one. I think we measured our seating. Everybody thinks we do have a big grandstands, but I think we can cram about 2,500 in the main grandstands. So, hopefully we can. I think that number's obtainable, and if we get 2,500 in the grandstands and get the number that we expect in the pits, I think we'll be fine, and it'll make it worth the, taking that risk or whatnot. So,
yeah, no doubt about it. Looking forward to that one. But before that, let's talk about this weekend. Time to cowboy up. This is going to be a big weekend that you guys have coming up out there at Rocket Raceway Park. Let's break all this down. Man, I love how these guys get their start. Man, now that's genius. Break down everything going on this weekend.
Well, that's one thing about not having KR is kind of a co-promoter with me. He comes up with these ideas, and sometimes he'll call me out of the blue and, hey, I got an idea. I'm like, oh shit, what do you got now? And because when he comes up with an idea, I'm typically the one that's got to pull through and make it happen, So most of the time he comes up with some lavish ideas, and then it just expands and expands. I'm like, well, we could have probably stopped right there, KR. But now the Cowboy Up Classic, that was I think that was something that we kind of wanted to incorporate, being from Texas, and just kind of a Cowboy Up theme type deal. And then KR actually wanted to put them on live bulls, and I'm like, I don't know if that's a good idea. Where are we gonna get live bulls? How are we gonna pin them and all that good stuff? And so we came up with the idea of just putting them on a mechanical bull. And actually, believe it or not, there's guys that I think some of these guys, they won't even come to that event because they're afraid they'll have to ride the mechanical bull. So I'm like, man, it's just it's not going to hurt you, just get on there, and we gotta entertain the crowd and make it worth their while as well. So, but it is fun. I think everybody enjoys it for the most part. Who knows? I don't know if I may get on there this year just to kind of get the show started, just to prove to them that, hey, it's not that bad. So, but unfortunately, KR's not going to be there this year. His sister is turning 50 this year, so they're having a big birthday party for her. So he's not going to be here this year. So we got a surprise guest coming this year to kind of fill his shoes as Roscoe, the rodeo clown, or whatever the hell his name is that he portrays that weekend. So, but we're gonna miss having KR there. He's taking another job, and it takes away from the weekend sometimes. So when he's off, he actually comes out and does some victory lane interviews for us. Comes out and watches the races. So always good to have KR there. But I'm not going to take credit for this. This was his brainchild. Like a lot of the events that we have are pretty much his brainchild. He's really good at that, and I'm really, I'm better at the other side of it. So, but we're going to keep continuing to put these events on, and when he's in town, he can help. He'll most definitely be there for those events. But yeah, we're looking forward to it. It's a limited mod, B mod special. We try to have a special for each one of our divisions throughout the year. We try to spread them out, and the Cowboy Up Classic's kind of been known as the limited and B mod special for us. Be 5,000 win, 500 to start. We'll have an open practice on Thursday. We'll run the stock USR stock cars and USR factory stocks on Friday night. They'll have a complete show, and then the limited B mods will run heat races, and then we'll break those guys down into qualifying features. Depending on car count, not sure how many qualifiers we'll have, but we'll take the top 6 qualifiers, and that's how we'll start the show out on Saturday night. We'll have a mechanical bull set up out there after hot laps. We'll put them on there, let them ride, and see who can ride the longest, and that's how they'll determine the top 6 starting spots. So 5,000 win, 500 start. I mean, it's pretty good, decent purse throughout the field. So.
That's great, man. I love that.
Yeah, it's good stuff. And then we come back with the we have the Junior Limited Nationals. This will be the 2nd annual for them. That'll be the August the 17th, I believe. Looking forward to that one. That Junior Limited Modified division. It's growing. You know, our car count hadn't been that great the last couple of weeks, but I've seen where other tracks are picking up and picking up momentum on that. So that's a good thing and a good sign for us. I think that's the future of the sport, and we've got to keep those kids involved and make sure they're having a good time doing it. And then Labor Day weekend, we come back with the Brian Mize. That's the 10th annual, and hopefully you guys can have us back on prior to that. But that one will be 10,000 win, 1,000 to start for the IMCA modifieds, and 10,000 win, 1,000 to start for the open modifieds. We'll be running the USRA and Tom's rules for the open modified, and then we'll have the IMCA modifieds run as a separate division. That's something that we did at the very first, or the first few Brian Mize races that we put on, and being the 10th annual, we wanted to kind of do something special and kind of bring back that format and really throw out some really good money for that show and just kind of show our appreciation to the racers and for supporting that event as long as they have and helping keep Brian's name in the racing industry or racing world around our area for sure.
That's right.
So Kevin, you guys got a lot of good things happening at Rocket. Rodney and I always try to keep track with you guys because you guys put on a hell of a show when you're out there. So best of luck on the rest of the season. And like Rodney said, that Cowboy Up Classic, that's a hell of a way to get your starting spot. But I love it. I have a fond memory and non-memories of mechanical bulls every now and then. But the good news is most of those guys will be sober when they're on there. My experience from the mechanical bull hadn't been all that sober. So that's a cool thing you guys got with that starting lineup. That's awesome.
Yeah, I've never rode one myself, so I don't know. We'll see. I'm on the fence if I'm going to jump on there just to get the party started and see what we can get going there. But I rode in an inner tube the other day on the lake, and that was the first time in probably 25 years, and I rode it out. They couldn't throw me off, so I might be up for the challenge. So we'll see.
There you go, man. There you go. Good stuff. Good stuff. Looking forward to the weekend, man. We'll wrap it all up on here next Monday. Good luck with that one. Good luck with the rest of the year. And as we always say, going to get there soon, man. Going to get there soon and check out the cool things happening there at Rocket Raceway Park. Kevin, thanks for the time, brother.
Yep, thank y'all. And y'all, like I said, y'all more welcome anytime. Y'all need to come check it out. It's some really good racing there, and we got some really good racers, and it's a damn good show for sure.
No doubt about it. All right, my friend. Good luck. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, thank you guys. Y'all have a good evening.
You bet. Take
See
care.
you, Kevin.
Bye-bye.
There he goes, Kevin Sestair, man. I like how he's breaking all that down. It's like I couldn't help but laugh right there, just kind of laugh out loud where he's talking about, the whole format, how everything's going to be going. It is. We'll have the bull set up out there. It's like, shit. I'd be qualifying. I'd be like, holy shit, what am I doing here? What am I doing here? It's like, I think my car's broke. I think I'm out for the night. I don't think I can do this. Jeez, man. That is genius. That is genius right there.
What if they have people in the bull operator to sling people off like you and Kyle did in Pensacola that night? Pay the guy as much money as possible to sling him off as fast as humanly possible. Like that time. I mean, that was before I got heavily intoxicated on that bull in Pensacola.
Oh man, what a crazy thing that's going to be right there. I love that. That's going to be a big event, like he talked about right there. Damn, these guys are slamming these home runs. Home run derby going on tonight. No big names in it, but at least something to watch once you get done with the Revved Up Sports Show. Rocket Raceway Park. So there it is once again. I mean, talking to the two promoters tonight. I mean, you've got two really great events that are going to be happening right here in the Central Texas area, Central Texas East. There with Summer Showdown Series night number 2 at Cotton Bowl Speedway, and then the Cowboy Up the cowboy up and money on the line. And like you were asking him there about the World of Outlaws, and then when he was talking about Brian Mize, I mean, they have done just a great job. And from all the reviews and different folks that I've talked to that have been out there to rock it, I mean, the improvements and so forth and everything that have gone on, it's really cool to see a place, because that's kind of one of those challenges, like when he was talking about having cars at Walmart and so forth. That's where it gets tough in situations like that, like Edna, to where you're in between larger cities, Victoria, Corpus, that type of thing out there. And then they're in Petty. I mean, it gets really hard, because I was thinking about where he was saying there where folks say, well, we didn't know it was there. I mean, we hear that a lot, Bobby. I hear that in Houston, and it's the third biggest city in the United States. And people are like, we didn't know this was here. So that's the challenge, because big time marketing costs big time money. And they're doing a really good job getting people there.
Yeah, they really are, and it's just a challenge, man. I think that Walmart thing, however they pulled that off, is massive, because that's probably the center of the commerce.
Oh, yeah.
There in Paris for sure, and to get people to, like we've always said, the most expensive seat at a racetrack is the empty one. Sure, giving away free tickets, yeah, you're losing money on the gate, but your goal with the free tickets is to make sure that they come back. Because if they come back, they're going to buy another round of tickets. They're going to buy another round of beer. They're going to buy another round of hamburgers and hot dogs and all the good stuff that you have down in your concession stand. And in theory, that free ticket is going to pay off dividends in the long run, especially if they get in free the first time, then they start coming back for more, and that gets them hooked, especially when you get the kids involved too. That's the key. Two things. You got to get the kids involved and got to get mama to like it, and then you'll be able to go back more and more.
Yeah, and I liked what he said as well. I mean, we are seeing that theme, and the thing is, when we talk to racers like Kevin and Owen's the same way. I know Marianne is probably more when she's talking about the time of the show, much more conscious of it. I think subconsciously than because like Owen and Kevin and KR and these guys and James over at Kennedale and the folks over at 105, that they're used to the late shows. I mean, it probably really doesn't bother them, but they do realize the big picture, because like he said, that 7 to 10 o'clock window, I mean, that's really what you have. And the thing about it is, it gets hard, because if you have a big show and you have a huge car count and you're having to, let's say you're having to go into B mains and all that and all of that, the fans don't care about that. I mean, the diehard fans love it, but the more casual or newer fans, they don't give a damn about, well, we have so many cars that we have to have 7 heat races and 2 B mains and all. They don't care about that. They're looking at the clock. Worried about the next morning. So that's where it gets really hard. I mean, with these big shows, and something that he said right there that was really powerful to me was where they're more concerned about getting a lot of butts in the seats, and even if it's 80 to 90 cars in the pits. And this goes back to, in my opinion, where 80 to 90 cars is really good. 4 to 5 classes. Don't run 9. Don't run 10. Don't do that, because that causes the other problem that we're talking about. And not to mention, that shit gets boring. I mean, it gets boring because nothing is happening.
Well, there's only so many different ways that you can describe a metric body chassis and a metric body looking car to your fans. So that creates a challenge. That's why I'm glad the stock cars, there was a lot of new different body styles in the stock cars there at Cotton Bowl there on Saturday night. Your boy Egbert's running a Dodge Challenger body that looked pretty damn slick. So.
Yeah. I mean, I love, the IMCA stock cars are great. I mean, some of my favorites are like there at Page, the street stocks and the outlaw street stocks in Waco, because you kind of get the different stuff right there. Some of that stuff gets a little radical, and not to mention those things are just all horsepower. It's all motor. I mean, it's like when you get those street stocks that come out, it's like, now this is going to be great, because this is just fast. I mean, it's like, I mean, it's not run what you brung. I mean, but you get these guys out there and they're just going to be hauling ass. So really good conversation right there with Kevin. Really good conversation with Marianne. Next, got to talk a little bit of NASCAR, maybe a little bit of IndyCar before we get you out of here and set you off on your week. But I'm sitting in my audio-visual consultation studio here in Round Rock. Here's a word from my man, Tom McKay, and as he calls her, the kid.
Hi, this is Tom McKay with Audiovisual Consultations.
And Camilla McKay.
Hey, kid, you want to hear a dad joke?
Sure, old man.
A guy walks into a flat... Oh, that was terrible. A guy walks into a store and buys an 85-inch flat screen for $2,500. I wasn't done with my joke yet.
Yeah, you were. Here, I got one. What's worse than paying for one overpriced surround sound speaker?
I don't know what.
Paying for two overpriced surround sound speakers?
All right, well, here at Audiovisual, we do like to laugh. And by calling 512-255-8678, you can share in that laughter. Stop paying extra for lesser quality and visit avconsultations.com today.
All right. You got me going now. One more.
All right, here we go.
A guy walks into a bar, and then a speaker, and then a projector.
All right. I think they get it, kid. Give us a call at 512-255-8678 or see us online at avconsultations.com.
And all jokes aside, remember to hug your kids, laugh with strangers, and make love to whoever the hell you want.
Just give us a call, 512-255-8678.
Check those folks out. A lot of these cool restaurants that you go to, not just in the Austin area, just different places. I can tell you most Pluckers have been set up by Tom and his folks. He'll come in and set you up a home theater system. It's a really cool way to watch racing. It is a really cool way to watch racing. I can tell you that as well. Always want to talk about our friends at Generation Race Cars. Our man Justin Long, obviously he and I having some conversations yesterday. Top Flight Race Cars are right there, as Bobby talked about. Bobby, you saw one in Victory Lane. You talked about it right there Saturday night there at Cotton Bowl Speedway.
Yeah, Jeff Shepard, one of the GRCA mainstays, definitely started 12th. And methodically worked his way up through there to win by 0.007 the seventh of a second over our friend Johnny Torres. But Jeff making waves there at Cotton Bowl Speedway, representing that GRC banner. So as we've always said, you want the next generation of race cars coming up, get a hold of Justin Long and the gang up there at Generation Race Cars, and they will hook you up. They'll even redo your old car to make sure that it's up to speed with some of the new cars. So they do some rebuilding stuff up there too. So with all your racing needs, just get with our buddy Justin Long up at Generation Race Cars there in Springtown, Texas.
That's right. Top Flight stuff right there. Check out Justin Long. Dude's been at it for a long time. That's another one of those guys where when we've talked to him on the program before and he starts talking about his customers and so forth, people go to Justin Long because they know that dude's done it and that dude knows what he's doing and he's going to build you top flight equipment. It is Generation Race Cars. Bobby, another weekend in the books. It's funny. I was mentioning this yesterday. I think I posted it on Twitter to where we've always, as long as this show has been on, Pocono's kind of always been one of those where it's like, I'll find something to do. I'll go do something else or whatever the case may be. Pocono, I think what I've actually done is I've actually studied Pocono a little bit more. I mean, I knew turn one was after whatever, turn two was, I knew all of that, but I think a lot of it is too, when it comes to cup racing, this race car has fit in really well there. I mean, it works really well there. And you had a race yesterday that I thought was, competitive. I mean, they're fast and Pocono's kind of become one of those races now to where it's like, I look forward to it. Where before it was like, okay, I'm going to mark the 2 dates and I'm going to go mow the grass or something else. But Pocono's pretty damn good right now.
It's decent. It's better than it has been in the past. But I think that's one of the tracks that benefited the most from going from 2 races to 1 race on the calendar. Because, everybody we know that's ever been to Pocono says the track is beautiful and the surrounding area in and around the Pocono Mountains is beautiful. And they did a great job showcasing that on the NBC Sports telecast. The track, we didn't see no foxes on the racetrack or any wild animals this time. So that was a little disappointing, but I'm telling you, man, those grandstands were packed. They were legit sold out. Infield, 3,700 camping spots sold out inside the infield there at Pocono. So that would be a lot of fun to go camping up there. I wonder if it gets as crazy in the Poconos as it does down Talladega Boulevard.
Yeah, I would imagine over there it's probably a little tamer. Yeah, no, I think that would be a great place to go. Just kind of perch yourself. And I mean, I know on Saturday as I was driving up to Corpus, I was listening to the end right there, and I think they had a little bit of precipitation at the end of that race. Corey Heim wins again. No, that's in the trucks. Corey Heim wins in the trucks again. What is that, number 5 for him? So a big one. Mm-hmm. Who won Xfinity? I can't even.
Cole Custer.
Cold Custard. That's right. Cold Custard is your winner there. The biggest story for me coming out of Pocono is, Kyle Busch. This is, I mean, I know he hasn't given up. I know he hasn't given up, but that's a race driver right there. Yes, he's got sponsor obligations. He's got all the different things that he has and all that. But I think this season can't end quick enough for him. The frustration on him, the body language. I mean, he is just. Hey, look, I know RCR is what it is, but he is in shit right now. He is in junk. And it is week after week after week. And it's taxing on this guy. We talk about confidence. I think the lack of confidence, and it's not a lack of confidence in himself. It's a lack of confidence in his team. And it's really starting to show right now. It's not that he don't give a damn, but he don't give a damn right now.
Well, I think he's having the year this year that everybody expected him to have last year. Right. So I think they blew the expectations out of the water by winning 3 times, winning early, middle, and the end of the season. And then this season, I mean, they can't even get 2 feet in front of them without falling over like a penguin on ice. Now granted, yesterday that was a little bit questionable with the move by Corey LaJoie. At the end of the day, man, it's still just, I mean, he's had bad luck. A lot of it's on his undoing, but man, I'm telling you, just the way that season's unfolded for him, his only goal is to get 1 win for the 20th to keep the streak alive. But that's a tall order with 17 races to go in the calendar. I haven't seen anything that makes me think that Kyle Busch is just a contender for a top 10, much less a win.
No, it's like he's getting worse, if anything. And I was waiting yesterday. I mean, very, his post-race interview right there, just kind of the way, he thanked the sponsors and so forth. Didn't name the RCR. I mean, he didn't say anything about that, but I was totally waiting for him to talk about it. I mean, Kyle Busch getting turned by Corey LaJoie. I mean, what does that tell you? I mean, that's one of those situations where in the past, he would say, well, when you're running with whatever, that's what's going to happen. And that was the case. And yeah, and Corey LaJoie as well. I thought that was going in a better direction, but it is totally gone the other way. But I mean, like him or not, for Kyle Busch, and this is where I thought it was so cool the other week where Lewis Hamilton won the British Grand Prix, to where it's like we see so many of these guys where they get to whatever points of their career. Jimmy Johnson went out just kind of with very much a dud. I mean, Tony Stewart got the 1 win, but Harvick wasn't able to get the win. He was competitive and so forth, but not that this is going to be the end of Kyle Busch, but I'm very curious to see if Kyle Busch doesn't take that whole thing up to where it's like, I'm going to step out of this. I'm going to go win that truck championship and to have that record. I'm going to go late model racing. I'm going to work with Brexton. I mean, I think this is wearing this dude out on cup racing, and it's obvious week after week.
Yeah, he's definitely got a lot on his plate. I think that the biggest mistake he made was selling KBM to Spire, just because of the fact I think that helped him. He was much better in the Cup car when he had all that, but then again, he wasn't running RCR equipment, because it's not like when you have 2 of the 3 cars running good or 3 of the 4 cars running good. Both of the RCR cars are driving like garbage. Neither one of them are doing good. Like when you watch the results on social media, they're not even putting the results on social media hardly anymore at the end of the race. They have it hidden in there for the race results for Austin Dillon and for Kyle Busch. So it's I don't know. I got a feeling that old Austin Hill is jumping at the bit to kind of jump in that cup ride, but I don't even think he wants to leave his Xfinity ride at RCR with as good as they're running to take almost take a step back by jumping into the cup program over there.
Well, I wouldn't. I'd stay where I'm at. I mean, they're very strong there. I mean, just keep what you're doing right there. I saw today, I guess. One of the Dillon boys is getting a ride at Indy in a 33 car. No, it can't be, because Ty already has a ride. I forget who it is. It's somebody in that family that's going to be driving something there at Indianapolis. And kind of on the heels of Pocono, now we go to Indianapolis. And of course, Turn 2 is designed at Pocono after Indianapolis. Glad to see him back on the oval, like we've talked about. I think that this car is going to race really well there. And I think that I think Indy's going to be a lot of fun. I think just, if anything, just the whole thing with them being back on the big track is going to be a cool event.
Yeah, with the 30th anniversary of the Brickyard 400 coming back, going to be on the oval. I think this is the car that brings NASCAR to the next forefront there at Indy. I think it's going to be a barn burner of a race. I think the Saturday show too, the Xfinity race, has an opportunity to be fairly good too, just because the way the Xfinity cars are racing. Their races have always been somewhat entertaining there at the Brickyard, except when they put that gigantic fin across the top of the car that one year. But that's going to be interesting to see how that race shakes out. You got the trucks there at IRP or Lucas Oil Raceway Park, whatever, Indianapolis Raceway Park, whatever it's called now. But everybody always calls it, your old school fans always know it as IRP. So you got the trucks there at IRP this week too. So that should be an entertaining show. So lots of stuff to be happening there in and around Indy this week. So I think Larson's going to run the same paint job that he ran for the Charlotte 600 race, going to run it again there at Indianapolis. I always like that orange and blue papaya McLaren inspired paint job they had there for the HendrickCars.com Chevrolet.
Speaking of Indy, this past weekend, Iowa Speedway, they had the double right there. And I think something that, and again, Indy, I love the IndyCar series. We've talked about that a lot of times on this show and then on the old radio show. But I think one of the best innovations that we've ever seen has been the aero screen with those cars there in IndyCar, and never more evident than what we saw right here. Take a ride with Kyle Kirkwood. Sorry about that. Take a ride with Kyle Kirkwood as he's cruising along right there, sideways. And hello. Car ride.
Took out the camera too.
Yeah, absolutely. So great innovation right there. And his whole time right there, I've got the thing, I've got the sound turned down, that way it doesn't get us on a copyright thing. But he's like, when's this car going to get off me? So really cool stuff right there. So Indy is coming up this week. That's going to be a heck of a lot of fun. And like we talked about, 2 big shows coming up at Cotton Bowl. And then, of course, we talked about the big Cowboy Up that's going to be going on at Rocket Raceway Park. Let's jump in here and see what else we've got. You've got, of course, the Wild Bill White Shootout. That's going to be coming up at Heart of Texas Speedway in Waco. That's going to be with the ASCS sprint cars. You've got stock cars, sport mods, and so forth. Sabine in action on Friday night. You got sprint cars at Hunt County as well. That's going to be on Friday night. You have that action right there. So a full night of action on Friday. Taking a look at Saturday, of course, the STEM series happening at Cotton Bowl Speedway. You'll have modified racing and local show over at Kennedale Speedway Park. You guys set to be in action at Texana Raceway Park. Man, I hope I've heard that track's not in the best shape with everything that went through there. Hopefully that one's going to be able to get done.
Yeah, I hope so. I'm looking forward to going back down to Texana and having a good night of racing. Should be a good show. Those guys down there are amping up and ready to race for sure.
Mm-hmm. You'll also have Grayson County Arklatex 105 Speedway. That will be coming up as well. And then as you start moving forward, the following weekend, you've got a couple of big shows there at Corpus. You'll have the Dwarf Car Nationals. That's going to be that Friday and Saturday. That's going to be going on out there. You've got, was talking to Dwayne Groff and those folks from DCRST. They're expecting folks from all over the country in Corpus for that 2-day show. And then you've got the 10th annual King of the Hill happening at Boot Hill. And you know that baby's going to be a big one happening right there.
Yeah, it's crazy how those guys will take those $30,000 cars up to Boot Hill to win $10,000 to have that car taken apart and come back in a box. They tear those motors down to the block. They tear the transmissions down to the core, rip apart the rear end, rip apart your shocks. And all in all, it's going to cost you about every guy that we talk to that ever wins the King of the Hill at Boot Hill talks about it's going to cost me more than $10,000 to put this damn thing back together.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we get out of here, we touched on it right there at the first part of the show. Late arriver right here. James, you can go back and listen to the first part of the program when it comes to that situation that happened yesterday. Again, that was something where when you in this business, in what we do, this is not something to where it's going to be. This is where, and this is. I'll repeat this because it's worth repeating when it comes to the Revved Up Sports Show. When the opportunity arose, when somebody reaches out and says, hey, I'd love to I mean, I'd love to write some top-notch articles for you. I'd love to help with the, whatever the case might be right there. Kind of the protocol is going to be, okay, let's take a look and see who this is. Kind of go do some research. Make sure make sure somebody can actually write is really the main thing. But this isn't a situation, and I'm not speaking for Race On, but I would only assume that, I mean, this isn't the Associated Press. This isn't Fox News or CBS or any of these, MSNBC or the BBC, or where there's all these dollars that somebody's locked into a contract that's going to come into some kind of employment. Most people that are in this industry always have, and unless something changes, which I wish it would, is some kind of independent contractor. They are totally responsible for their own actions, for their own work. The work that they produce is their own. It's licensed to, in this case, the Revved Up Sports Show, Dirty Air, Race On, whoever the hell else that he has written for. It's not something where you're going to go in and you're going to go call the, you name it, and do a background check. You're going off of the basis of their work. And when stuff like what happened over the weekend happens, everyone is floored. Everyone's like, geez, I'd have never thought that. And it's totally uncalled for. And, we only know what we know. And it's not the first time something like this has happened. And it's probably not the last time that it's happened. It's just an unfortunate situation. And for Phil, it's a very unfortunate situation in a lot of cases, but I can just tell you from in this industry, he's probably done. He's probably not going to be doing this job anymore.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's a sad deal. But I mean, sometimes it's good, right?
Yeah, I mean that's a whole thing. I mean, you're held accountable by your actions, and that's the thing. I haven't talked to him. It is what it is. I mean, it's uncalled for. We'll just leave it at that. I mean, it's something that it's unfortunate that it happened. It shouldn't have happened, and everybody has moved on. And hopefully, the human part of me says, man, I hope that he's able to fix whatever's bothering him. And this just goes back to the whole thing. Like we made the tie at the beginning of the show. Unity seems to be the theme of the weekend in lots of different cases. And our little sport, whether it's here on the local level, or regional, or national, we need to have that unity too, because we've got a lot of those problems as well. So I think that if anything, take a lesson and let's all work together, because I don't want to find something else to do, to be honest with you. And when things happen, when bad things happen, it makes me want to go find something else to do. So, we all need to get better.
Yeah, everybody got to get better day by day, hour by hour, minute by minute. Try to do something good. Try to not do something bad.
That's exactly right. Rest of the week for you, my man, as we fly into a brand new Tuesday that'll be coming up for us.
Right now, no traveling for work other than traveling to the office for another couple of weeks, and just kind of get geared up towards the end of the week. Get ready, check out weather forecast there. So far, looking so good. Might be just a typical precipitation up here. So I got to look at what it's going to be like down there. But I just hope that track is in good enough shape. I know they got lots and lots of rain from that hurricane. Our thoughts and prayers are still with our friends in Houston that still don't have power after all this time. So looking forward to try to just have a nice relaxing race weekend, and no drama, nothing like that. If for some reason we can't do it at Texan, I'll be back at Cotton Bowl to watch the Stims race.
There you go. And a pro tip is always really good to go to. Obviously, you can follow our page and you can follow the streaming pages and so forth. But let's say you want to go to Cotton Bowl this weekend and you're concerned, like Marianne was talking about right there. I see it at all the tracks that I go to working with the promoters. As I know the phone call is the old thing, and we say a lot that folks need to communicate. They need to talk more. But on race day, it's really hard to answer a phone and say yes, we're racing, or no, we're not. Follow these racetracks. I mean, they all do a really good job for the most part of getting on there and letting you know what's going on. Hit whatever racetrack that you're going to be going. I say follow them all because for one thing, they need the followers. The more followers they have, it enhances their a lot of different things with social media and views and all that. So do that, follow them. That's the place that you're going to find out what may or may not be happening at your racetrack. Thank you all for being a part of this. Thank you to Marianne Nauman. Thank you to Kevin Sester. Go out and check out their shows. Go out and check out shows all around the region, all around the state, all around the nation. And as we always say, Bobby, if you can't find a racetrack to go to or can't get there, find a streamer, because I guarantee you, you're going to find something really, really cool there. Thanks for being a part of the show. RevvedUpSportsShow.com is the website. Check us out. We'll do it again next Monday, 6:30 p.m. Central, 7 o'clock Eastern. Bobby's down south. I'm Rodney. I'm up north. This has been #Real Race Talk. It is